it, and that's okay. Because when that movement started back in 1955, it started with one little old lady. She really wasn't that old. She was in her 40s. But it started with her being tired of living in a society full of pain and suffering. So she decided to defy the law of the land and sit down when she was ordered to release her seat to someone of the white race. And she was willing to sacrifice and sit down so that others could stand up and so that future generations would have a chance to live in a society free of discrimination and free of segregation. So in many ways, we're like that movement, because that one lady caused the spark, and that spark caused other people to connect. And as other people began to connect, initially it was a black movement. But as the movement continued to be propelled and the message that was being emphasized began to relate to the human heart and the things that we have in common, it became a multicultural and a multi-ethnic movement. And eventually that movement, which was confined to the American shores, began to find expression in nations and people in nations across the world who were fighting for their own liberation and freedom. And so we are a part of a new movement that really perpetuates that movement, which is to rid this world of pain and suffering. And we are doing it by understanding that it's not just about all the externalities. For you see, it does no good to just have a commitment to the material advantages of being a part of USANA. That's good and that's well. But ultimately, you have to have a vision that goes beyond that which you can touch. Because if you have a vision that goes beyond that which you can touch, then it propels you to move beyond the things that would stop you. And I give you an example. My father was faced constantly with opposition. He was told no. Y'all been told no? No. Get out of my face. I don't want to have anything to do with USANA. He was told, stop. He was met with resistance. But he had a vision that was much bigger than himself. And it was a vision that was even much bigger than black and white together. It was a vision that was devoted to the freedom of the human spirit. And because it was that kind of vision, and he devoted himself to it, he was able to overcome the no's, and he was able to overcome his own fears and his own inhibitions, and he was even able to overcome the fear of death. Now, I'm not speaking to us necessarily about physical death, but overcome the fear of having to die to self. For indeed, that's what he had to do. He often said that if you haven't found something worth dying for, you're not fit to live. And in many ways, I believe USANA is like that. It's worth getting your ego bruised. It's worth being rejected. It's worth having people think you've lost your mind because you're on this health and wellness kick. It's worth it because you know the truth. And because you know the truth, you've been made free. And because you are free, you now have passion that drives you. That no matter who says no, that gives me more drive to connect with and find other people who eventually will say yes. And they will say yes because they see what's happening in my own life. People said yes to that movement because they didn't just hear Martin King talk about nonviolence, but they witnessed him being an embodiment of nonviolence. And so I'm saying this to my family. If you're not supplementing every day, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. But it's a must. We cannot miss one day because it's hard to truly convince another of that which you are not practicing yourself. USANA is not just about a commitment. Nonviolence was not just about a commitment and a tactic that was used under a certain set of circumstances. I.e., I heard someone say recently to me who had the opportunity to go to Sonovive, they said, I don't want to stop taking these supplements because I'm feeling better. And maybe once I feel better, I don't have to take them as much. Now, you all know better than that, right? Because every day we contend with the toxicity of our environment and the stress of everyday life. That will be with us until we die. In many ways, poverty, even racism, and even war is going to be with us till we die. But it does not mean that it has to be at the proportion that it is. And so therefore, Martin King understood that I've got to not just embrace this thing as a tactic, as an every now and again thing, as a thing to be utilized under this particular set of circumstances, but nonviolence has to be a way of life. And USANA and our commitment to a healthy lifestyle has to be a way of life.